This is the Frat House Sports Show. And now, for this week's completely different and often humorous take on everything sports, here are Frat House Mike, Uncle Mark, and Sidekick.
Alrighty, well listen, welcome back to our mid-season classic Frat House Sports Show, where every week is an All-Star Game right here, huh? We just got done, well, kind of showing that a little bit. Maybe they didn't see it, but...
Yeah.
And
it'll make the blooper reel.
It will. Trust me. Hang around long enough, you'll find out. This was one of those nights where we kind of thought that, hey, you know, we're in the middle of the summer. Oh
what
my gosh. What could we possibly get into? Is it snooze time? No, this is one of those nights where we actually kind of thought that, well, and it's very possible yet, we still might. It's 8:30 here in the East. Get some breaking news. We're not sure yet. We got ESPN up there. We got Sidekick over here on the Twitter accounts.
I'm doing my tweeting.
Checking things. Because, well, all of you might recall, it was just about 4 years ago, a little bit longer than 4 years ago at this time, that we had LeBron James make his decision to go from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Miami Heat. And now, 4 years later, we're right back at it. And the big rumors today, all day, have been that, in fact, he plans on announcing this evening that he's going from the Miami Heat to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So all the haters out there who have been hating him for years because of the horrible, nasty, rotten things he's done to Cleveland, well, they're just going to love him, maybe, perhaps, after he makes this decision. But who knows? Maybe that's the kind of thing that will be breaking in on us, and that'll become really the big breaking news.
Hey, Doug, how come you're so cantankerous today?
The big top story of the year. Because, frankly, I'm going to be honest with you, I never expected that he would ever go back to Cleveland. I'm going to be
honestly,
honest,
I never thought that anybody would be able to top your epic Flyers emblem burning and then right on the NHL bandwagon. And the Cavalier fans may actually prove me wrong.
It's very possible because, for God's sake, we saw so many of his jerseys burnt in effigy. Not to mention the owner, Dan Gilbert, keeping a absolutely torrent rage of a letter up on his own website for 4 years.
Until about 3 days ago?
2 days ago? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. But in the meantime, let's get to our own big stories before the other bigger story comes down. And let's move it over to something. And I'm going to bring this one up, Sidekick, because you and I spent so much time way back on, and I don't know if you remember it or not, I do, like as if it was yesterday, on January 16th, we spent a great deal of time talking about the NFL Concussion Lawsuit. And the reason I remember it so well is because you and I really were almost coming down on opposite ends of it.
Well, I unfortunately suffer from early dementia. And
oh, you're thinking you might be able to cash in?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't really remember that episode. But
do you remember playing football?
No.
No, you don't even remember that, do you? No. Okay.
I don't even remember retiring, actually, but if I can cash in.
Well, if you recall, though, if you possibly could recall, back on January 16th and so, we were talking about the fact that at that particular time, Judge Anita Brody from right here in the Philadelphia region had come down and had nixed, for all intent and purpose, a settlement between those that had brought the lawsuit and the NFL. Both parties apparently were in agreement. $765 million was the settled upon amount. And she goes back and goes, not enough. I don't think you've accounted for long enough time and not enough money. Go back to the drawing board. Well, it took 6 months, and apparently on Monday it was announced that, in fact, that's exactly what they've done. They've come back with a brand new proposal, which now meets Judge Brody's approval. Aren't we all very lucky? So far, it's the settlement now uncapped. Previously, there was a cap of the of the amount of money that could be utilized out of it. It is now uncapped. Specific amounts are now set for specific conditions and diagnoses, things like ALS or Parkinson's or CTE, which is worse.
Yep.
But most of those specific amounts are on what I would call kind of an actuarial sliding scale going upward as one gets in age.
Actually, it's,
all right, well,
it's
we're going to try
reversed.
that. Yeah, okay.
It's actually reversed.
Now, this proposal apparently, though, is still not completely approved. It's pending final approval because she has yet still called for one more fairness hearing to be scheduled for November 19th.
And
All right, go ahead.
basically what the next steps are in this are, letters are going to go out to all the players.
The plaintiffs.
Right. Saying, okay, you've got the option to opt out.
Stay in.
Or opt out. Okay. Then now on November 19th will be the fairness hearing, which they will actually review everything and then listen to anybody that has objections, which...
Can I... no, go ahead.
Which, well, funny you mention it. Before the announcement today, there was actually a group that has already come out and are objecting to the revised settlement.
Yeah, well, it's a small group of
7 players.
Really, really retired players.
Yes.
Who precede, apparently. But go ahead. Yeah,
Right.
I did read that as well.
But then, once they have the fairness hearing, if everything is okay, then they'll move to do the final approval of the court
And the
supervised
execution
program.
thereof.
Yes.
And that is pending that the NFL doesn't continue, which is always still possible, that they could, albeit one would think maybe they won't now because it looks like they're signing off on it, huh? Yes? I mean, there wouldn't be any potential of appealing.
Right, both sides are okay with this.
Okay, all right.
So it's basically up to the plaintiffs now to, say, hey, no, we don't like this or we don't.
We either want in or we want
Right.
out. And then at that point, then we'll have a final determination on the number of, I guess, real injured parties is what we'll have at that for this moment.
Well, okay. There's some subtle change, or there's some changes to this plan versus the original plan. Okay. One of the changes is now it's just not the plaintiffs. All former NFL players retired as of Monday are now eligible.
Okay. Now that. Okay, but all right.
So it's just not the
now
plaintiffs
I'm wondering
now.
who those 7 then are that are still complaining. But
Right.
go ahead.
75. The NFL will fund $75 million for baseline neurological and neuropsychological testing for all eligible retired players.
Right.
The NFL will pay $10 million for educational programs for safety and things like that.
That's on the front end.
Yep.
Right.
The retired players are not required to prove that the injury was football related. So any kind of concussion, ALS or whatever, they'll be eligible. The diagnosis will be made by a network of physicians that's approved by the NFL and the players' attorneys.
Okay.
They will do payments for early dementia and severe decline in cognitive function. This is, I think, is the big one. That was we talked a lot about how grubby the attorneys were. No more than $112.5 million will be paid to the attorneys. The attorneys need to submit their expenses. That will be paid by the NFL parties and not from any of the settlement accounts.
Yeah, that
so
shouldn't
that's not part of.
Right, that shouldn't be coming out of any
Exactly. That's a
like
completely separate fund.
Correct.
Capped at $112.5 million.
Very good there. I would applaud that.
So, and then what you were saying basically was there's $5 million is the cap for Lou Gehrig's disease, $3.5 million for Parkinson's, and $4 million for CTE.
Yep.
And it's on a sliding scale. As an example, someone under the age of 45 who has Lou Gehrig's disease will get $5 million. Someone in the age bracket 75 to 79 would get $1 million, and anyone over 80 would only get $300K.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by it being a sliding scale upward based on age, meaning that you would get less
Right.
as the age increased. Okay, so we were on the same page.
Yep.
All right.
So, and the district attorney is estimating there's about 20,000 eligible retired players.
Correct. Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll find out whether they're actually eligible or not. But okay. All right. I'm not going to get into it more than that. I just felt it was important because we spent so much time on it 6 months ago to come back and revisit it because it did change again, and we're probably going to come back and revisit it again, maybe even in November after we get this quote-unquote fairness hearing. So it's obviously something we're going to continue talking about. Who knows? It might even continue to be a topic coming up for us. We got our roundtable coming up in just a couple of weeks. So the NFL Roundtable Show will be coming to you in about 4 or 5 weeks. So might be on there. All right, let's jump over to our next story, and that is that we've got, well, hey, it's that time of year, as I just pointed out. We got our mid-summer classic coming up, the All-Star Game. Yes, in fact, we're going to be served up on Tuesday, the 85th All-Star Game, and well, my goodness, it's well known that I'm on record as being a great fan of the NFL's Pro Bowl. Yeah, right. That's a worthless exhibition, probably the most worthless exhibition in all of sports. And I'm just wondering whether it's time to perhaps maybe we throw this one on the fire heap as well. The 85th Major League Baseball All-Star Game comes to us next Tuesday. And I got to be honest, and I don't want to disparage it horribly, because I do remember as a youngster growing up, high school, and into my college years, and you're not that far away from my age, all right? So you were in the kind of the same era.
Yeah, we at least had cars when I was in high school.
There was a lot more. Thank you very much. There was a lot more. It felt to me like there was a lot more hype around it, a lot more anticipation. I'm going to tell you specifically, I do recall, and I actually made note of it in my notes here today, because I was thinking back on All-Star seasons that I recall. 1979, I specifically remember very, very well, because I spent a good portion of my summer with family members of mine up in Connecticut, and they were big baseball fans. And I got to tell you that the whole day of the All-Star Game, that's all that was talked about in the house from the beginning of the morning until the game actually came on later that evening, was the fact that the All-Star Game was going to be coming on, and this was a big deal. And I got to ask the question right now, today, is it a big deal? I frankly don't think it is. All right, now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I'm living in the wrong sector. I'm in the wrong market right now. I've only got one of my players in the All-Star Game. Maybe if I'm in a different market, perhaps maybe I'm a little more excited. But I frankly think that this game has lost a good deal of its appeal and its luster. And I'm going to throw it out just for a real quick conversation. Yes, no, am I right or am I wrong? Has it lost some of its luster? And are we simply holding on to this thing now out of some endearing sense of tradition?
Well, with all the steroid controversy the past past decade or so, I guess, I think baseball's taken a big hit, and that's kind of why the All-Star Game now kind of lacks that polish, because baseball in general kind of has started to lack that polish. You don't hear so many people talking about America's pastime anymore. It's now the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe part of that, has been not necessarily the All-Star Game itself, as it's just baseball as a whole.
Interesting. Okay. Any comment, Uncle Mark? Do you want to jump in on it? I mean, is there any reason to fix this thing, or just get rid of it?
No, the All-Star Game is fine as a exhibition game. Really, what's the point of it, though? The point has always been to establish home field advantage, right, for the World Series, which is kind of...
Not always. That's only been a recent phenomenon.
Well,
that was to boost TV ratings.
That's the latest incarnation of why this game should be important. And that's kind of ironic, because you might have, pitchers and players in that don't even make it to postseason. So, that kind of flies in the face of it. I like an idea that was put forth by K.O. Oberman recently, and that was, why don't you just have the winner determine whether or not you're going to have designated hitting in the World Series? I think that's a great way to go. I think it's a good option. There's something that sort of has some value to it. But apart from it, no. I mean, it's exhibition. Has it lost its panache? Probably Sidekick's right. I just think with the taint of everything with the sport, it's got some tarnish now.
Well, now you bring up an interesting, and I had that one listed down here, you bring up an interesting point, and that's part of the controversy of this particular game, is the fact it does, in fact, determine who's got home field advantage in the World Series. And when that first all came down, that was as a result of the fact that that one game went to extra innings and it ended up being a tie, and both managers had to go to the commissioner and say, geez, sorry, boss, but we don't have any more players. And he got pissed off at that one and said, well, this is never going to happen again because I'm going to make sure you guys manage it correctly. And that's what he did. And there's been a lot of complaint about the fact that we give it that much
importance,
significance. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And frankly, where I was in favor of it initially, I got to be honest, I'm completely not in favor of it now. I think that is a big, big mistake. And I think, making the DH, maybe that's what you do. All right, somehow or another.
Let me throw this out there.
Go ahead.
Here we go. Why don't we have the league with the least number of PED penalties during the year get home field advantage?
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not addressing the All-Star Game, but I kind of like your idea.
Well, but
It's outside the box.
I've read some other stuff where one article I think you posted where they suggested making the home run derby the decision.
But I think that's silly.
But
I think that writer was being sarcastic when he said that. But go ahead.
But he brought up an interesting point that I like. In this year of the World Cup, one of his ideas was if you move that to the home run derby designates the winner loser. Then what you do with the All-Star Game is you now have the U.S. players on one team, and then the other countries. I'd be willing to try that for 1 year just to see.
Haven't they done that before?
I don't recall, Brandon. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I like that idea, though, a lot when I did read it, that, maybe every 2-3 years you make it a USA versus the world sort of a All-Star Game.
Okay.
And I like that. And
it just brings a little bit of a different
It goes
feel.
to the whole World Classic situation, which we've had many times. That goes on preseason. But it's kind of a neat idea, and I like that. I did like that idea. But as far as tying it into anything postseason with specifics to the particular season that we're in, I think that we need to go back and revisit that, and we need to find a different way to address that situation. Albeit, I frankly think that this might be the second All-Star Game that's going to, in my mind, completely lose any significance whatsoever. All right, let's go on to our third one here, and we've got no word from from the King. Okay.
Actually, it looks like there's no decision coming.
No decision is coming from the King.
Not yet. He's done talking to all the teams, but no timetable has been determined for announcing a decision.
So the Bath Township Police
Are you trying to give me the double talk?
are going to be a little pissed off. I wonder if he's going to get fined for that from the Bath Township Police there in Ohio.
So the King is meeting with his merry men around the table at Camelot? Is that what we're to believe?
Yeah, we're not quite sure where.
I guess he didn't get enough hype.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, right. That must be it.
Yeah, I guess that's what the case was. We got to build it up a little bit more for tomorrow or something. All right, look here.
We're waiting.
But now, going to the third story, let me segue this.
Go ahead.
So we're talking about the King, and now we're going to go talk about another King with our third story.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I got where you're going. Interestingly enough, NASCAR is making one of our top stories for the week.
Yes.
And somewhat kind of a little bit of a puzzling story for me. And I guess maybe in some respects I'm kind of looking for a little bit of guidance from my NASCAR experts here. On Monday, the biggest of the Sprint Cup teams banded together to form what they're calling the Race Team Alliance, described as a business association intended to increase revenues and budget efficiency for Sprint Cup organizations. Nonetheless, NASCAR seemed somewhat incredulous, releasing their own statement on Monday. Quote, "We are aware of the alliance concept the team owners have announced, but have very few specifics on its structure or purpose. It is apparently still in development, and we're still learning about the details, So it would be inappropriate to comment right now. Interestingly enough, as I mentioned pre-show, gentlemen, Fox Sports likened it to the concept of players' unions and some of the failed attempts at players' unions that have taken place in NASCAR in decades past. All right, I open it up. What do we make of all of this? What's going on and why the timing and all of this? And
you're surprised that Fox would be associated with talking about unions?
No, not at all. Right. Actually, not at all. In fact,
they're on the bandwagon. They're pro-union.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure of that. But no. What I was saying was, and if you recall, I mean, I did say, let's back up the bus. It was only for Fox Sports that made that analogy. But go ahead. What's our thinking on what the hell's going on here?
Well, I kind of want to side with NASCAR. There's not a whole lot of detail about this whole alliance. I mean, it's not like we've got Darth Vader coming in. Though the chairman reportedly is Rob Kaufman, co-owner of MWR, and we know about MWR and after last season. So I don't know. Well,
MWR was able to. Well, Kaufman apparently though was able to pull in all of the other big name teams. I mean, make no mistake. JGR,
everybody's in there.
Michael Waltrip,
Hendrick,
Childress,
right?
Hendrick,
RPM,
they're all
Roush,
in there.
Stuart Haas, Penske.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's funny is I didn't see any of the smaller teams in there. It's all the larger teams.
Wasn't there language though that they're going to extend it to all once they've more or less formalized and finalized what their agenda is?
Well, obviously,
with this agreement.
Sure, and obviously, what this is this was an attempt to create a big splash on Monday following the Daytona race. That's exactly what this was. We got all the big names out there, and here's what we're going to... okay, and yet, at the same time, there's a lot of question marks. Still, I go back to what the hell's going on.
Well, it's interesting. They chatted. I saw a chat with Richard Petty, right? Now, this was the first race that Richard Petty's 43 has been in the winner's circle, right, in like 15 years, and even longer ago since he won, right?
1984.
There you go. So his description essentially was, this is going to be a cooperative whereby, and no doubt about it, smaller teams are going to be included, but they can get the best bang for the buck amongst all the teams in a collective way for deals on gas, deals on tires,
travel
deals
expenses.
On parts, whatever the situation might be. In other words, we're all pulling together in purchasing power on what we all mutually need. Okay. And that seems to be what, I guess, that's what the King's putting out there. Put it like that.
Okay, so in fact, for all intent and purpose, it is basically a union of some nature.
I guess loosely.
I mean,
it's a union.
Maybe not a labor union.
Right.
But a union that says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to flex our muscle and show you guys, guess what? We want this. Otherwise, you get us all or you get us none. Right? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, if you believe...
I got a problem with it.
Yeah, if you believe the propaganda that the RTA's putting out, they're saying, hey, we want to group all the teams together in purchasing power. So, like traveling, like Mark was saying. But also, hey, if one organization had, how do I want to say it? Okay, let's take a smaller team. Okay, not a lot of budget, struggling. And we've heard about this with NASCAR, sponsoring with getting sponsors and stuff like that. They can be in this collective, okay, and they may be able to get some, operating efficiencies from some of these other bigger teams, or may be able to get a discount
that they wouldn't normally be able to get.
Right. So on the top, it looks like it may benefit the group as a whole.
Correct.
Okay? It's, everybody's getting
It's
together.
like being a member of a warehouse.
Well, yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
the same thing. Isn't this big box store mentality?
Exactly.
But the question is, because they haven't released any details of what exactly their organization's going to do, you can, the dark side of it is, are they going to sit there and pressure NASCAR with the TV deals and say, hey, we think we need more, and that's where the union, I think the typical or stereotypical union mentality kind of comes in, is they're going to start bargaining and saying, hey, NASCAR, whoa, you've got an $8 billion contract you just signed with Fox Sports and NBC, and we're getting right now currently 25% of TV revenue, and we want a bigger piece of the pie.
Right.
And that's, I think, where NASCAR's concerned.
Interestingly, though, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it could lead into other areas, not just financial. This could go into areas of when we have NASCAR coming down and almost unilaterally making decisions on things like penalties, what penalties are going to be, what the rule book looks like, things like what the schedule's going to be. Suddenly you could have an RTA group stepping in and going, oh, no, hold on now. Let's talk about that schedule. Let's back up the bus a moment. Oh, no, let's talk about that addendum you want to make to the rule book. Let's back that up a moment. I mean, it could lead into other areas.
Sure. And I'm not, like I said, looking at it without all the details right now, it looks like it's potentially a good thing for the teams.
Mm-hmm. What's your gut? What's your gut?
Right now, I'm going to say I think it sounds like a good thing.
Okay.
But they could be pulling the wool over my eyes. But looking at it right now, with the details we have,
timing. Why don't you just wait until the new season starts?
I don't know. I have no idea what the time.
I think there's more going on here if you're listening to everybody's conversations. One thing that I've come to mind, if you think about their biggest expense, which is the cars, you're never going to be able to group by parts. They all have different manufacturers.
Sure. Well,
no manufacturer's going to, if every team has their own deal with Chevy or Ford or Toyota.
Yeah.
So, it's
what's universally shared when you start talking about that? Tires
the
and
shop.
tires and the
Tires,
shop
gas,
and fuel.
Tires and
right?
gas and travel.
Travel.
And shops. The equipment in the shops.
I can't see them forming this alliance to get a deal on tires, gas, and travel. There's more to it.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
There's got to be. They've got to be able, like Dick was saying, the strong arm them into more
financials
more
or
money, or maybe they can work out a deal where they can attract more sponsors as a whole, possibly, but I don't know.
Yeah, look, sponsorship we know is drying up in NASCAR. I don't necessarily know if having a group out there that's going to be beating the drum any louder than what NASCAR's already done is going to make any major difference there. It's an economic reality. That's the bottom line. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be enhanced, but
we're going to.
That's a good point. And the entitlement sponsor for Nationwide, I think Franz recently mentioned that they were going to announce that, and they have a lot of nibbles on the line as far as that. But maybe this RTA has something to do with, some of that sponsorship and perhaps the entitlement sponsorship for that series. Right. I mean, that Nationwide series is up for grabs. We know this is the end of it.
And we've not
it's going to be something else next year.
We've not heard any progress made on that whatsoever.
So, NASCAR's not getting back to me about the Frat House Sports sponsor,
Why they're not taking us seriously, I don't know.
I mean, I said we were willing to jump in.
I thought you made a very generous proposal.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but your auto failed post-race inspection. I think that was. I think that was the problem. Yeah, I think you had
game over, man. Game over.
Restriction or something going on there, dude.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. Maybe it's the stripper poles at the driver walkout. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, they were worried about Danica. I mean, that's
there was something going on.
How's she going to respond to that? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there was that sandwich caveat in there.
All right. Let's move on. But we're going to move on, but we're going to stay. We're going to keep auto racing up at the top. Well, is it the top? It's the middle of the show now.
Yeah.
But we're going to do a little bit of an expanded, if we can get through it pretty quickly, we're going to do a little bit of an expanded auto report this week. NASCAR and NHRA. We haven't taken a look at NHRA in about 8 weeks. And as usual, our weekly racing report brought to you by our friends down at Herb FM Sports Radio down in Maryland. Nice job they're doing for us down there. My goodness. Tuesday night, 3-hour marathon beginning at 8 p.m. That was this past Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Check our Facebook page or go, better yet, to herbfm.com and you can find the schedule there for when we are on and they rebroadcast us and you'll hear this show right there from those guys. Thanks very much, Chris. Thanks very much, Herb FM Sports Radio. Last weekend, we went back for our second visit, excuse me, to Daytona. And we go to Daytona, at least particularly in the past couple of seasons, it seems like that means wild and wackiness. And,
well, it is restricted.
Well, it also means delays. And it seems that we had a little bit of all of that within a period of about 96 hours. So many times this season, we originally had a race scheduled for Saturday night. We're not doing Saturday night. How about Sunday afternoon? Thanks to rain. Yeah. Rain. Go ahead.
If you remember, the Daytona 500 was a day race.
Correct.
That turned into a night race.
That was a 6-hour delay, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's okay. Yeah, they just swapped them out.
There you go.
But rain had a big impact even before the race got delayed from Saturday to Sunday, as NASCAR closed qualifying for the race just after the first round of the knockout. And that ultimately had the starting order for the race when it finally got running on Sunday. Yes. Is anybody following any of this? I'm a little bit confused, but that ultimately had the starting order, what I would call a little bit upside down.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle will talk about upside down in a moment. But upside down, this was our starting order on Sunday when we ultimately started going. From the pole position, we had David Gillian. Reed Sorensen was 2, 3, Landon Castle, 4, Bobby Lamonte. 5, there's a name I know, Jimmy Johnson. Wow. Okay, now, so we get the racing going. Everything's all fine and good. That is until we get 21 laps in. And we get the big one. Well, let's call it the big one, 1A. How about that?
Yep.
Little A.
The first big one, yeah.
16 vehicles involved in this one. Yeah, how about Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards, well, and others. I can't even name them all. Many of them, their day was completely over. I know that Johnson's was. I think Brad actually came back. Tony, I think, was done at that point.
Harvick, I think, wasn't he out?
Yep.
All the picks.
Fantasy team was in
What a
exactly.
mess.
My fantasy team ended, both my fantasy teams ended negative points.
There it is, lap 21 of 160. Oh, we're not done yet, folks. No. We finally get back to racing. Everything was good. That is until we get to lap 97. You thought the big one, 1A, was good? How about one small letter B? How about that one? The bigger one, the bigger one. This time, 26 vehicles involved. Well, and this is where it really got upside down. How about Kyle Busch involved, Casey Kane, Clint Boyer, Greg Biffle, Jamie McMurray, and more. Yeah.
Anybody's fantasy roster that survived 1A got wiped out in 1B.
Yep.
I had just gotten out of the negatives and then went right back in.
Oh, my God. Dear Lord. Now, we weren't done yet with all the mayhem and mess and just the whole situation of the whole weekend. The race was ultimately red flagged at lap 112 for, rain. And then ultimately, NASCAR called it official with some of the most unusual results. Let's talk upside down again. How about this? Winner, Eric Almirola, as we pointed out, started 15th. There's our 43 making the checkered flag and getting into the race winner circle for the first time since 1984. Brian Vickers came in second. Kurt Busch, who started 40th, came in third. Casey Mears fourth. Austin Dillon, the rookie, comes in fifth. We were just talking about Dillon last week a little bit with regard to the rookies. That helped his case. It just seemed to me that this race was doomed almost right from the very beginning of the weekend.
Honestly, I was going to say, I think that they called it for rain, and I think at that point they just gave up and said, let's just get out of here.
Get out of here. And as I pointed out, we're talking upside down. And we're going to take a look real quick. We go back to, that was the second big wreck. And we're talking about this whole thing being upside down. And literally, for Kyle Busch right here, it does mean he was upside down. The big one, 1B, took that one out. This was a little bit of a TV scary moment, really, because as you can see, they were under the car trying to actually get Kyle out of the vehicle. There was some concern, in fact, whether ultimately he came out just fine.
Well, I'm sure it's a little hard to get out of that Hans device and everything when you're hanging upside down.
Yeah.
I move for no
there
man.
There was video of it, of Kyle from inside Kyle's car.
Yeah.
When he went, yeah.
Yeah, they showed they were actually because they showed the camera on the car itself, flipping.
Six Flags Daytona International. That's what it was. Six Flags Daytona International.
That's why we watched.
Just to clean up a little bit.
Go ahead.
The 43 actually has won since 1984.
Oh, okay, but
84 was Richard Petty's last win.
Richard, okay.
Carr's last win was 1999 by John Andretti at Martinsville.
Okay,
Right,
thank you
that was
very
15.
I was going to say, yeah, it was the anniversary of Petty's 200th win, I think.
Yes.
Yes, it was, correct.
But the
84.
43 car had seen victory lane. I believe Bobby Hamilton also won in between Petty and John Andretti.
Was it a Petty car in 90? What did you?
443.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. That's what I thought.
He's always had a tie to it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
The team has changed names a few times and had partners, but it's now back to Richard Petty Motorsports. But yeah,
all right.
So
stand corrected on that one. But I mean, I've been a big Eric Almirola fan since he came in, and I was pleased to see it, albeit it was kind of a strange way to win the race.
Well, I can tell because you're wearing his colors, and
I would have preferred to have seen him actually win it outright. I mean, to me, I don't know if this is
hey, but he's in the chase now.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, and that leads us to the leaderboard. Let's go take a look at that leaderboard real quick.
Wow. Imagine that.
Nice segue. But with everything being as upside down as it was, with all due respect, we really didn't see any monstrous changes to the leaderboard because I think almost all of these guys were at one point or another out of the race, so it didn't make any difference. Well, I know Carl was out. Brad, I think, actually did finish. Junior was out, and Johnson was out.
No, I thought Junior finished.
Did he finish?
Yeah, he was in the teens. He was the only upper guy that had any chance of winning the race.
Brad was on there too, although he was caught up in the first big one.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, Kyle actually came in, I think, 24th actually, but that was because there were so many that were DNFs that you had to start ranking the DNFs and putting them into the mix.
Yeah, I'm just glad this race is
I'm an excellent driver.
All right, but there you have it. There's our leaderboard as we see it. In fact, I think Johnson only jumped up 2 points overall in the points column. He went from last week being 594 to 596. He got a whopping total of 2 points for his efforts at Daytona. Correct, exactly.
You only get 1 point for last.
Exactly. All right, now this week we can only hope that we get a little bit back to normal as we head up north to New Hampshire. How about New Hampshire? I knew it was a new something. Yeah, I'm heading.
I goofed.
I did. Thank you. New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Our very, very last broadcast, by the way, very last ever, hopefully forever, from TNT. You can catch that one beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday.
brought to you by Coke and KFC.
KFC, of course, of course. Now, in a moment, we're going to be taking a look at our fantasy standings for our Frat House Sports League, and as, just like you saw with the overall standings for NASCAR itself, ours didn't actually change much either because I think almost just about everybody was affected one way or another. But if we get back to normal, well then, what do you got for us for this week? Here we go.
Going to the bull ring, Loudon, New Hampshire. We're going to go with Clint Boyer.
Okay.
Uncle Mark's favorite. 25.75. He's a two-time winner at Loudon.
Okay.
We're going with Toyotas because Toyota's been dominant here the past several years.
Okay.
Matt Kenseth, $27.50. Kevin Harvick at $27. And then we're going to round out with our bottom fillers. Michael Annett, $9.75, and our lucky dog, Mr. Landon Castle, at $7.50.
Okay. Kyle's won here twice? Once? Twice?
Kyle's twice.
Twice, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you there, Sidekick. We're seeing a name in the mix for entry. We'll see how he qualifies. I believe he will, but we've got Jeff Burton running this week at Loudon. Now, he is a four-time winner over 38 races that he has run there in the past. He's got some decent numbers, 9 top 5s, 15 top 10s. He's driving the number 66. He's 15 and a quarter. Let me ask you something. Should I swing from the fences and include him?
Yeah, see, Mike's got the same. That sounds like
That's a lot.
It does sound like a lot to me.
I just got done saying Toyotas do well, and that's Michael Waltrip Toyota right there. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's.
And Mark is absolutely correct. Jeff Burton owned this track because it's flat. He was a good flat track racer.
His average finish is like 13:37, and that puts him like in the top 8 all time. You know, going back to like 93.
Okay. Well,
that could make him a number 3 driver on your roster.
Let me put
at 15.
Let me put it this way to you.
I'm actually making him a 4th at this point, and then I'm going with a real low bottom
I was going to say, then you're going with a $5 driver at the bottom. And
well, you got to know. That's probably what I would do. But
I mean,
initially, I'm trying to make room for him, even though, I agree. 15-25 sounds like a lot of money, but you know what? He's not bad. I mean,
if you're trying to make up ground,
it's either that or Morgan Shepherd.
And Morgan Shepherd is racing.
And he's running too, right?
There's 43 cars for 43 spots, so they all make it.
There you go. What do you think there?
Well, here's the other thing, you already picked Clint Boyer, who's Michael Waltrip Racing. So it's a teammate to one of the guys who you just pointed out dominates at the track.
Yeah.
And this guy has a history of dominating at the track.
Yeah.
So
I think if you're trying to pick up positions, like you're trying to move up the leaderboard, coming into the fantasy chase season.
That would be me. Go ahead.
Right. That might be a good gamble to take to try and get you up there. Because a lot of other people, well, now of course everybody watching the show may now go and put Jeff Burton on their roster.
Right.
That's in the fantasy league, but that may be a good way, to kind of roll the dice a little bit and see if you can't get up in positions. So.
All right, a real quick follow-up.
My initial thing, it sounds like he's a little pricey, for being, for a one-time race. But if you're trying, if you're willing to roll the dice and trying to pick up a number of positions, it might not be a bad pick.
All right. The follow-up is, Loudon. Some drivers have said Loudon is all about position. In other words, if you're running out front and you can stay out front, then you're good. But if you lose a few laps, it can take you 50 laps to get like 6 spots ahead. So really, I mean, does it make sense in this particular track to just wait and see how they qualify and then go from there? Or is something like Jeff Burton a gut decision? Is that something I'm safe to do?
Well, see, for Sidekick's picks, I don't have the luxury of.
I know, and that's why I'm asking you.
You don't have to qualify.
I have to go kind of based on loop data and different, things like that. Everybody else in the league, though, has that opportunity to wait and see how happy hour goes. How does qualifying go? How does practice go? See how people are running. Are people having issues? Or, obviously, you get into the race, people wreck and other things, but
can't control that.
But you kind of can get a feel of how a team's running, or if there's a dominance there that if you're on the fence for somebody. For instance, Jeff Burton, see how he does in practice, qualifying, and happy hour. If he's out there,
if he's coming in the top 5, top 7, maybe that's somebody you want to consider throwing in there.
Exactly.
Because if Uncle Mark is saying, if the idea here is take the guys up front in qualifying, if he's jumping in that top 10 area, maybe that might be the threshold you want to be looking at to put him on your roster.
Yeah, and again, I'm bringing it up just because this track supposedly is notorious for that. In other words, qualifying doesn't necessarily mean a lot in other tracks, but in this track, it can mean if you're running front clean air, that might, be a harbinger of how that race is going to go. Once you lose those positions, if you don't have the right strategy and pit strategy and that, it's very hard. Actually, Bobby Labonte was talking about it. It's very hard to gain, positions back. So that's why I was, thought I'd bring that up for our fantasy folks.
And one downside to that strategy is you have place differential that goes in there. And if you have somebody that you put that's like we saw it at Daytona, you had these people that were at the front, okay, and then they finish at the back, you get minus points for them, they start,
all that spots,
third,
lost.
And if they finish 43rd, you get minus 40 points because they finished, so that's, you kind of have to balance that out, the different categories. So, but, generally speaking.
All right, well, with all that fantasy talk, let's take a look at where our league standings stand at this particular moment. We've made reference to some of it. You've dropped down, your own team personally has dropped down to fourth. Our fantasy team's still up there at second. Our technical director actually had a good day this past week, moving up to seventh. Everybody else off the board.
Well, and Nate was at the top of the leaderboard.
Yep.
So, he jumped way up.
Yep.
He benefited from
this was one of those races that we just got to, think that, okay, it was an anomaly, and next week we're going to get back into some semblance of normalcy. All right. We're not done with auto racing. Let's move over real quick. We haven't had a chance to take a look at the NHRA standings in about 8 weeks or so, as I pointed out. So we're going to bring you our second part of our motorsports report right here. Hard to believe that we've already had 13 events in the season, and only 5 now are remaining in the NHR season before we get to the countdown to the championship. But where things stand, and it's been an exciting season, folks. While I haven't necessarily talked about it, you can bet I've watched a lot of it, and it's been very, very good. Over in Top Fuel right now, Doug Colletta right now is leading that, just 48 points, however, ahead of DSR's Antron Brown, who has won 5. He has picked up 5 Wallies this season out of the 13 events so far, including one just this past weekend. In the funny car category, JFR's Robert Height right now sitting 178 points ahead of his boss, John Force, who also won. John himself won this past weekend. Interestingly enough, right now, third place held by Ron Capps, another DSR driver. After starting out the entire season, very, very rough start for his season this year, he has actually worked his way up to third. And in Pro Stock Division, this season it has been all Erica Anders Stevens. Evident by the leaderboard, right now, in this particular category, we have our largest gap from number 1 to number 2. Erica right now 241 points ahead of Alan Johnson. She is just ripping it up right now with her new team. Next event. All right, and after that, as I pointed out, there's only 5 remaining in the regular season, and then we go into the countdown. Next event will be next weekend, July 18 and 20, at Bandamere Speedway out in Boulder, Colorado. All right, and there is our expanded, and it's been very expanded, motorsports report for this week, and you probably forget who brought it to us because we've been talking so long. Hey, that was Herb FM Sports Radio. Don't forget those guys. Get over and check them out, particularly when we're on. If you're not sure when, get to their website, herbfm.com. All right. We got to clean up, talk about, well, I guess we'll actually clean it up next week.
Yep.
FIFA World Cup.
Yep.
We had 2 semifinals, I guess, would that be the accurate phraseology? 2 semifinals this past week.
Yes.
One was an incredible blowout. The other was an incredibly tense situation where nobody quite knew where it was going.
Right. Both good games.
Your game, Germany. Yeah. Who saw that coming? absolutely beat the tail off of Brazil. There the Brazilians all pulling out their hankies. The tears are flowing in the crowd. 7-1?
Yep.
This was a football score. A real football score.
Yeah, it was a blitzkrieg is what that was.
My goodness. Later on then.
4 goals in 6 minutes.
In the first 6 minutes, was it not? Was it not in the first 6 minutes of the match?
I know it was the first half, but I don't remember if it was the first 6 minutes.
I think that they
came out and they hammered them.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was like 5 in the first 6 or something.
Yeah,
it was,
and that's what I thought.
So
it was
lopsided.
in the beginning of the match. I mean, it was like right from the very start.
Yep.
Pull goalies in soccer or no?
You can.
That sounded like you needed one.
Yeah, I don't think you see it too often, particularly when you get the World Cup. But then after that, we had Argentina and the Netherlands. Many were putting their money on Netherlands. Actually, Argentina ended up winning that one in penalty kicks.
Yes, in the shootout.
Yeah.
I was going to say, isn't that the shootout for
It's the shootout,
soccer?
yeah,
it's the same
Essentially,
difference.
that's the gimmick. We just do penalty kicks.
Yeah. Yeah, 4-2 in penalty kicks.
And so, what do you got for us? I mean, we're looking at the final. I mean, is there finals on Sunday? Unless you've got, is there any kind of insight you can bring to us? There it is. It's coming up on Sunday, 3 p.m.
Well, Germany advances to the final. It's the first time a European country has ever been in the finals in a South American World Cup. This Germany's victory over Brazil tied Brazil's worst rout from 1920 when they played against Uruguay in the World Cup. And then you've got on the other side, this is Argentina's first appearance in the finals since 1990.
Okay.
Now, Saturday, you'll have Brazil and the Netherlands playing for third place.
Yeah, the runner-up.
And then on Sunday at 3 p.m. on ESPN, you'll have Germany versus Argentina.
Right.
And in that, a highlight, I guess, of that match, besides Germany's onslaught of goals, I swear they must have record number of goals in this World Cup. You've got Lionel Messi.
I was going to say we got Messi running in.
Messi is on Argentina's team.
Right.
He's known as the world's best soccer player.
Correct.
And does not have a World Cup.
Right.
In his trophy
and
case.
there's rumor that this might be his, because I believe this is his 4th World Cup, and that this might be his last.
Yeah, and he's caught a lot of grief from fans.
Yep.
Because it appears that he plays amazing for Spain when he's back in the European League, but then when it comes to World Cup, he phones it in.
Well,
and he's got a lot of grief. He catches a lot of grief from his fellow Argentinians. So it'll be an interesting matchup.
But make no mistake, we got some people that are doing some heavy duty praying on this. Apparently, on this particular match.
Yeah.
We got our current Argentinian Pope, and then
our former
the patriarch, previous Pope is praying for Germany. So I don't know how that's all going to work out with God, but I guess you got to tune in on 3 o'clock on Sunday.
I thought I told you never to interrupt me while I'm working.
There you go. There's FIFA World Cup. Let's get over to, we're in our Midsummer Classic, Major League Baseball. I pointed that earlier. We got the All-Star Game coming up early next week. So we'll have a few days off for all of Major League Baseball shortly. I mean, I think Sunday's our break, and then we probably won't see any Major League Baseball at his full league play until Wednesday or Thursday. But no days off from us here as we're bringing you our Major League Baseball segment brought to you by our friends over at CLW83.com. Our buddies Jim and Carl over there, and a wonderful job that they do. And I think I'll have to check on Jim. I think he was planning on an upcoming program shortly, of which I'm supposed to be on that one. Hopefully that one works out. The last one didn't, but hopefully the next one does. But the longer the season goes, and here we are at the midseason, it seems the screwier the stories just seem to get.
It's time again for Frat House Mike's Screwball Stories.
Oh, yes. All right, ESPN was broadcasting one of its many contests during the season. between the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox way back in April when they came across a rather attentive Yankees fan in the standings. Yeah, well, listen, I think we can pardon him. It was still early in the game, and, well, it was early in the season, and look, the score is only 2-1. I mean, you know, hey.
All right, Mike. Don't go too far.
You know, who wouldn't?
You don't want to get sued. You don't want to get sued.
Listen, broadcasters
Don't go
apparently.
too far.
John Kruk.
You're mocking me, aren't you?
Apparently, John Kruk and Dan Schulman. Well, apparently they made a few on-air observations about our fine fan here. Fans' response just this past week. Yeah, he's suing ESPN for $10 million for defamation of character and emotional duress. ESPN has since completely dismissed the contention of the lawsuit. Quote, the claims presented here are wholly without merit. By the way, wake up these fans, because I found their pictures all over the internet. And along with many, many others, by the way, they weren't the only ones. And I just think that, you know, maybe some of these fans could jump in with the others for, you know, maybe a class action. You know, we'll jump that. Yeah, everybody's into class actions nowadays. Let's just jump that up.
Well, you know, coincidentally, 18 million is
10 million. It was 10 million. 10 million is the price. These guys could get it up to 18 though.
Yeah.
This guy in particular is good for 10 million by himself. Oops, I'm going to get sued.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, coincidentally, 10 million is 3 buffets a day for life.
There you go. Really? That much? Okay, anyhow. All right. Mike Ferguson. You don't know him, but he's a really good Colorado Rockies fan. And just the other day, right around 4th of July, well, what he did was he packed up his family and he traveled the 200 miles from Grand Junction, Colorado, to see his team in person at the ballpark. It doesn't happen too often. Apparently, he can only do it, you know, if he's lucky, maybe once, twice a season. And when he got there, well, the Rockies, they lost, as usual, badly, as usual. So before Ferguson left the ballpark, he happened to be strolling out, and he came across one of those little bins, you know, where it has the customer satisfaction survey cards. Well, he pulled one out and, you know, pulled his pen out and he filled it out and he dropped it in the nearest box. On his card, he expressed, you know, a little bit of frustration about, you know, spending as much money and travel time and what have you to come and see basically a mediocre product.
Is that the best
Dick
you got, huh? Is that the best you can do?
He's a good owner. Dick Montfort is a good owner. He's a good owner of the Rockies. And he's actually been known to actually himself go out onto the field and help shovel the snow off just so that the team can play. He's a very proactive guy. I mean, he's a good dude.
Sure.
Good dude. He may have taken his own customer service concept just a tad too far the other day. See, what happened was Ferguson, who wrote the customer service card, yeah, he got an email from the owner, which read, quote, "If product and experience that bad, don't come. Signed, Dick Montfort." I don't know if that's...
The 3 words that best describe you are as follows, and I quote, stink, stank, stunk.
There you go. All right, now, many of us here in the Philadelphia area remember the thorn in the side that Atlanta Braves Andrew Jones could be to the Philadelphia Phils. Others might actually remember, too, that he was... well, considered, he wasn't second or third. I think he came in actually 5th for Rookie of the Year, excuse me, in 1997. The Rookie of the Year, by the way, in 1997 was Philadelphia Phils' Scott Rowland. But Andrew Jones was considered. But all those years of the dual Joneses, Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones, for the Atlanta Braves, well, those are years that all of us here in the Philadelphia region would just soon forget. Well, listen, don't go forgetting Andrew just yet, though, because apparently he has made an appearance and it's currently over playing in Japan's Nippon League, one of our favorite leagues. And yet, only in true Nippon League promotional style, Jones's team designed an entire promotion all around him. Yes, get your tickets now for the Royton Eagles Beer and Meat event. That's M-E-E-T. Beer and meat, not
Even
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I need a drink.
rather. I'm sorry, M-E-A-T, correct. And apparently at that particular event, Jones will reveal his beer lineup. If you can't make it to Japan, there's the beer lineup.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to
As
quit
I
drinking.
mentioned, if that's your pitcher, you're in deep, deep trouble.
not a bad catcher.
Yeah, I'm all right with the catcher. I don't know about that shortstop. I do like the first baseman, and yeah,
Well, the third baseman seems a little fruity.
yeah, I would agree. All right, let's go take a look.
Anyway.
Let's go take a look real quick at the AL and NL standings. Take a look at this one here. Yes, that's the O's up there at the top of the East. Not just this isn't an anomaly. They're up there by 2.5 games right now in front of the Toronto Blue Jays. Detroit Tigers stay 4.5 games ahead of the Royals and the A's. Right now, the best team in baseball, still 3.5 games in front of the Angels.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Yeah.
In honor of the O's being at the top of the league,
Yes.
can we see your O face?
My O face. Let's go take a look at the National League. The Washington Nationals now are 1 game in front of the Braves. The Brewers are a game and a half in front of the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They're getting there.
Freaking Cardinals.
The Giants and the Dodgers right now are virtually tied, with the Giants holding right now the tiebreaker. So we've got the Giants reflected, but and I had predicted that last week. Watch it. The Giants have been in a downward
Free fall.
spiral skid. All right? And there it is. All right, we'll see where things stand next week, and yeah, maybe the Cardinals will be at the top. In which case, I'll have to I'll have to have a comeback for you someday.
Good luck with that.
Let's go take a look. Yeah, really. Let's go take a look at our Frat House Sports Facebook post of the week, and that was a fun article that I posted the other day that promised to reveal 17 hidden images in current or previously used logos or icons of numerous professional and collegiate teams. And as I stated in my post, I thought for sure, oh, I got this one. This is easy. I got this. Not so quick. Didn't do very well on it at all. But I got to tell you, it was a fun exercise to go through. As well did hundreds and hundreds and, well, let's get straight, over 400. Because the number now currently is over 400 of our fans found it to be fun as well. And that's the kind of fun we have over here on our Facebook page. And that's why you get over to Frat House Sports and give us a like. What are you waiting for? Get over there. It's fun. Did you try this?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
Some of them were good. I like
Yeah.
some. Some of them were kind of
No,
obvious. You're
yeah.
like, oh yeah, yeah. But the Brewers one, I had no. I didn't know that was an M,
I
but
knew
a
that
B.
was an MB. That one I did know. It was some of the other innocuous ones that I didn't get. But I thought that was a good one. Uncle Mark, did you do this?
Oh, I did it. Yeah. I went through them all.
How'd you do?
Oh, I did terrible.
Okay, good. I don't feel so bad. All right. There's our baseball report brought to you by Jim and Carl over CLW 83. Thanks very much, guys, for sponsoring it, as usual, as we're coming to a close on our Midsummer Classic Frat House Sports Show. Yes, indeed. Before we get out of here, make sure you get over and check out our website, frathousesports.net. And let's just wrap it up, because I've had enough.
Sure.
You know what you got to do. You got to keep us real. You got to keep us live. You got to keep us going. We will see you next week. Take care.
Good night.
I'll be whatever you want me to be.
I was just about ready to go.
Do you want me to cut it?
No. because this is all good stuff. I might be able to use this for, I don't know, who knows what. Stop it.
Nice.
What are you?
She's over here going like this, and I'm like, and you're all focused, getting ready to talk.
It's kindergarten time at the Frat House Sports Show.
There's your outtake. You've got outtakes
It's 8:30.
now.